I mean, Gollum is almost. I'm hard pressed, besides one of the Uruk-hai maybe, to find a character that is less likable than Gollum, except for a couple of moments in the entire book. I mean, Gollum is you're meant to have a disgust for him, and you're meant to jive with what both Bilbo and Frodo felt initially, and so the fact that you would be playing Gollum the whole time is such a weird decision to me.
Well, he's wraithified, right? He's demonized essentially, and he's.
You mean by
and
the
everything?
ring?
Yeah. Well, by the ring, but more by his lust for the ring. That's what destroys him and changes him. And even when you think that he's going to kind of break through, I mean, you're kind of given a little bit of hope, right, for a while, but ultimately, but the idea is that his self-pursuit is what plays into essentially what Gollum intended for evil, Eru intended for good, right? And so you see that come to its fruition, but it's like, well, maybe Gollum is not all that bad. We got to rethink Gollum, and you're hoping they don't end up taking it that way, where they want you to kind of sympathize, live out the Gollum experience and think, well, good, evil, these things are it's all a matter of perspective.
He's become I mean, really since Jackson's films, he's become a pop culture figure, and he's a good amount of comedic relief in the films, especially, which, you can be really vile. And if you're funny, then, or even if you have cute elements about you, it can make you a popular figure. But yeah, I mean, Michael, to your point, it is a really interesting, at least to consider that. I mean, this is a character that is just utterly, in the time of Lord of the Rings, is utterly vile. I think there is something else though with Gollum, as Tolkien wrote him. I mean, there's this kind of hopefully redemptive arc to him, which is very strong, and it goes through all the way. And unfortunately, it doesn't play out quite the way you may hope for, but like you start kind of pulling for him at some point, because you can see that there is this internal struggle going on, within the story. So there's some elements that do make him, from Tolkien, that do make him a increasingly sympathetic figure as the story goes along. But also
right up until Shelob Slayer. I mean, and on the stair of Cirith Ungol, you have that final moment where it actually says that he looks like, there's a moment where he, even watching Sam and Frodo sleeping next to each other,
touches his knee, right? That part.
Like he touches Frodo's leg, and he actually changes. Like he looks like just a very, very old hobbit. And because he wants the love that they have for each other, that friendship, he just and that's the height of it. And then Sam wakes up and mistakes his aim and calls him a sneak, and we have that funny dialogue. And then from there on, it's downhill, because he betrays him to Shelob, and then tries to kill him over and over again. So that moment I see as the peak that began in the Amin Muil and the Passage of the Marshes. So yeah, I agree with you, John. There is that arc, but after all, that's a short period of time for Gollum.
And the game's not exploring that at all.
That's true. It all happens before the Lord of the Rings.
Well, not even counted.
I do agree that the game's approach. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I've been hearing about this game for years, and not that I'm much of a gamer, but like, I mean,
just a cash grab is all I can figure.
Who is asking for the Gollum game, right? Like you can make a point for the MMO, right? You can say like, people want to play him maybe in a but I was like, you know what I want? I want to pretend to be Gollum. I want to eat fish.
Says no one ever.
Yeah. And I don't even know. It's going to be really interesting when we play it, because I have no idea where it's going to go with the play style. Like, is it really just sneaking around the whole time? Because it's not like you're going to be upgrading him. He's not, like, unless they are, maybe, I don't know, maybe you get a better ability to control the ring or something.
I looked at a YouTube review of it. Apparently there's going to be some parkour. So,
well, yeah, that's like Assassin's Creed without all the interesting things. Yeah,
which they've changed that franchise though a lot too. So
I would counter that what we don't really see a redemptive arc with Gollum. We see more of a damnation arc. Like he kind of has a high point and then it goes down, right? As opposed to having a low point and coming up, so to speak. And that's something that I think in Tolkien's cosmology, that is he shows all sides, because you have redemptive characters and you have those other kinds of characters where you get the full spectrum of how humans act in a moral universe.
Yeah, what we see is, what I would say, Garrett, is we see the struggle. The arc is the struggle. You only call an arc redemptive or an arc of damnation because you know the end. So in the middle, we see the potential for redemption as he's leading Sam and Frodo through the marshes, and then saving their lives multiple times, and then leading them. There's that chance, outside chance. So you're telling me there's a chance. So and then it ends up as an arc of damnation, which nevertheless Iluvatar uses for the good of Middle Earth. But there's during the struggle there is a potential for redemption. And
Tolkien never says he's like outright says that Gollum is like a damned figure either. He talks about it some in one of his letters. He never
debates that with the orcs.
He never commits to that fully. But the other thing I would just highlight with Gollum, I mean, Gollum to me is just a fascinating character, and is the way Tolkien wrote him. So the other thing is just knowing when you learn the backstory and you learn how he came into contact with, this just like he's basically a hobbit, right? And he comes into contact with this artifact, which he has no idea what it is. But it's like, it's basically like just, this tiny little figure coming into contact with this humongous, almost, essentially demonic presence, right? And it's like coming up against some radioactive thing, and he's just like, he has no idea what it is, but it just grabs him, and he has no protection against it. So, I look at that too, and I think like that makes him, to me, that makes him a more sympathetic figure. I don't know. I'm more open to, maybe just less pessimistic. I get it. And I don't want to, I think it's kind of silly to have a game about Gollum, purely about Gollum, but, I love talking about Gollum, and like, he's a totally fascinating character, to me from the Legendarian perspective.
I like the contrast between him and Frodo, and even him and Bilbo. Cause you're talking about how he's like so corrupted and everything. Whereas, like, you see Frodo actively like fighting the corruption, Bilbo fighting the corruption, and they obviously Frodo. And when it comes to the final moment, he's not able to fight it either. You have like Gollum is the one that has to do it for him, like because he can't toss it into the fire. So I do find that interesting too, though. I like that juxtaposition.
Yep. I mean, and nevertheless, Tolkien goes to great lengths to show us what a despicable creature he is. I mean, he literally eats babies, and Tolkien talks about it. There's So you don't get more vile than that in one sense. It's just, and then he gives him a possibility of redemption.